Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome Calling All Captains to the podcast. I chatted with Luke back in 2022, and you'll find that episode in the show notes, but today I have the whole band on the pod. Calling All Captains released Emotion Sickness last Friday on New Damage Records. The band talks about their experience in the music scene in the Edmonton suburbs, how the band came together and reached its current iteration, partnering with New Damage, the new EP, and a lot more. Thanks so much for checking out this episode of As the Story Grows. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. You can find links in the show notes or at asthestorygrows.com to our Discord server, our mailing list, and our Patreon page. Earlier this week, I shared an audio essay about the Bruce Fitzhugh era of living sacrifice. So check that out. $3 a month gets you that audio essay plus early access to every episode. And if you think someone might enjoy this episode or the podcast in general who hasn't heard it yet, go ahead and share it with them. Enjoy today's chat with Calling All Captains.
I think you know I cry every time you walk away, and is it alright if I sleep away the day I'm praying? Things will get easier for me, 'cause life is lonely.
Always exciting when the whole band is here.
Yeah.
It's more.
Yeah, no one's missing.
That's great. It's great. Let's just start. I mean, Luke, I've talked to you before. I can share your whole backstory with everybody, but how did everybody else in the band get into music? Start there.
How did I get into music? I started playing guitar when I was 7 years old. I got a guitar for Christmas from Santa Claus. And yeah, I played for a couple of years. I took lessons for a long time. Mostly just playing by myself. And then I met Luke in high school. And the rest is history, basically. We just started jamming together and joined bands together. And now we're in this band. So that's pretty much my musical history.
How about you, Brad?
Yeah, Brad.
For me, I started playing guitar at around 14 years old. My best friend in high school bought a guitar, and I remember going over to his house and learning Brain Stew by Green Day with him, and from there I was hooked.
Yeah.
And I just kept playing guitar ever since, and found some friends that were into music, and slowly got into the music scene and started meeting other musicians and trying to form bands, and the rest is history.
Nice.
Brad, it's too bad you gave a Green Day reference, not a Blink reference.
I know, sadly that was my first song, but all of the rest from there was Blink, Tim.
Yeah.
I've said as a guitar
I'm
player.
sure it was. Not like you learned basket case to help your palm muting now, did you?
Like Green Day was such a great intro band as a guitar player with punk rock, though, because it's like once you could figure out those three chords, you were set. Like Blink was a little bit more complicated on the riffage, not a lot, but like, you know, Green Day, you're like, all right, I got this.
Yeah.
And then you felt like a badass, right?
Green Day's chords. Blink-182 is like picking.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's just a little different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you, Tim?
My mom put me in piano lessons when I was probably 5 or 6, and I don't think I ever did my piano homework once, not even once. But I liked playing. I always had fun just picking out little tunes when I was a kid. And then when I was 13, Santa Claus is also part of my story. Got a drum set from Santa Claus when I was 13. There was kind of some cool serendipity that happened. When I went into grade 7, it was the first year that my high school had ever had a band class. And of course, they needed a drummer for concert band. So started playing drums in grade 7. Everything kind of lined up. And then Santa Claus came, boom. And yeah, I just played in bands my whole life and eventually met up with these guys.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Are you all originally from the like Edmonton area?
I grew up in Red Deer.
Okay.
I grew up in a tiny little town about an hour from Edmonton.
Okay.
Luke and I are both from St. Albert, which is basically Edmonton.
Nice. What was the music scene like for you guys in like high school and your teenage years? Like, was there good local scenes, or was it just like a struggle to find other punks to play with?
I remember when I was in high school, a couple of touring bands would come through, maybe like once or twice a year. And that sort of lit the fire for local kids to start their own bands so we could open up for them, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, when I was in grade 7 or 8, I went to my first local show, and some kids in high school, like I think they were grade 11 or 12, they asked me to play drums for them. And yeah, I just remember this tiny little town kind of creating this little micro scene. Like bands would go on tour and they'd play like Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, Vegreville, right? There just happened to be a little scene in this town. So I got lucky. Like again, serendipity, right place, right time. There happened to be a little scene where I grew up.
Yes.
Yeah, and for me, growing up in St. Albert and Edmonton, kind of, I didn't really start going to local shows until like I was a bit older. But meanwhile, I guess what I'm trying to say is that we had two really good all-ages venues here in St. Albert and Edmonton. In St. Albert, we had a place called GFCB's, which was like Grace Family Church basement. That's what it was. So everybody got together in like a church basement, concession stand with pop and chips, all ages venue, just hardcore shows, pop punk, everything under the sun. Just that's where you got to play in St. Albert. And then in Edmonton, we had an amazing venue once upon a time called Avenue Theater, and that place ripped. All of the bands got to play there. And I remember they were doing $5 tickets one time, and I was like, this is crazy. I was like, it was just, it's a kid's dream, because, you don't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And there's not really a lot of all ages venues around here anymore. And if there are all ages venues, it costs the bands way too much to book that we can't even afford the $5 tickets. So you're like, hey, we're going to have to charge $40 for tickets because this place costs $3,000 to rent for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. But growing up, there was no shortage of places to go watch a new band or a touring band.
Nice.
Me and Connor were in a band when we were kids, so like it was just super cool. We even played at like our local Lions Park outside. It was like one of our first shows like ever. So yeah.
My experience is pretty much Luke's experience. We grew up down the street. Even before we knew each other, it was sort of the exact same scene. For me though, I didn't really grow up being into punk and all that stuff. Like I was more into the old school classic rock stuff.
Okay.
So I would say probably like my first local show with those types of bands was when I was actually playing one in mine and Luke's old band. So I probably would have been 16, 17 or something like that. But yeah, same venues, just a small little church basement and an outdoor park and all these cool little spots that aren't around anymore really.
Yeah. Did you just fall into punk because you wanted to play with bands and that's what was available, or did you eventually like get into it?
No, crazy story.
He my ass.
Okay. No, crazy story. So Luke was auditioning. He used to be a drummer. He was auditioning to play drums for our old band called Echoes of an Era. And since I lived like 10 houses down,
I was auditioning to play guitar.
Were you? Okay, yeah. He was auditioning to play guitar. He's a multi-instrumentalist. His day. And since I was just down the street, I was like in my garage, like lighting stuff on fire or whatever I was doing at that time. And I just heard this racket down the street. I heard like drums and guitars. And I was like, what the heck is that? So I rode my longboard and my skateboard over there. And I met the two dudes that he was auditioning for this band. And they're like, yeah, we're looking for a guitar player. I was like, oh, well, I play guitar. And Luke's like, oh, well, actually, like I play drums. So we I think, Luke, you had just gotten that drum kit and you had it set up in your garage. So you hopped on the kit. Yeah, you hopped on the kit. I hopped on the guitar. And it was kind of the start of our first like musical endeavor that way. I just literally heard them jamming down the street.
Nice.
Yeah.
Brad, I'll give you the opportunity if you want to share about your high school music scene.
I didn't really go to shows much in high school. I was learning guitar at that time, and I moved to Edmonton within the next couple of years for university, and that's kind of where I started getting into music more and going to shows. So I would go to shows at like the Pawn Shop down on White Ave in Edmonton, that's no longer there, and Avenue Theater, like Luke said. So yeah, not much in Red Deer, but mostly Edmonton.
Nice. And how did you guys all meet to form Calling All Captains?
Oh man, it was like a coffee filter. Honest to God, that's what.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so this band, Brad and our previous vocalist, they started writing tunes together, like overseas. Brad, you started. I'm telling your story.
Yeah. Mike and I had been friends for a while, and he moved to Australia for 6 months. And while he was over there, he was writing songs, and he would send me little riffs, and a couple of them were really good. And I was like, man, we gotta turn this into a song when you get back. And the first band one of my first bands I had joined had him in it, and he played bass, and the band dissolved, and then he moved to Australia. And so when he got back, we made this plan to start this band, and we came out with a single and a music video, and just kind of hit the ground running. And I think at our first show, or no, I think on the video of the first song, Luke commented on it and was like, yo, this would rip if it was 10 beats per minute faster or something like that. And I was like, this guy
already clowning.
Yeah. And I think Luke came out to our first show and just like approached us and was like, yo, you gotta let me be your drummer.
I was like, yeah, your drummer's like, I was like, you could have a better drummer, and I think it should be me. and so, yeah, it was a bold move, but it paid off, Cotton. So I started jamming their song that they had out like over and over and over and over and over again. And so by the time they got over to come and jam, they brought all their stuff with them. And then I was like, all right, here we go. I just counted them in and I played the full song. And they're like, okay, I think there's something here. We filmed a couple of music videos, blah, blah, blah. And then we had this big old tour that we were about to embark on. And our vocalist, Mike, he was like, I don't really want to play guitar. It's like, I just want to sing, get in their faces and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I happen to know a guy. I happen to know my best friend, Connor. And so I begged Connor. I was like, please. And you were like, no, I don't want to. And like, I wasn't even the one that actually convinced him to come.
Yeah, so I guess backing up that story a little bit, mine and Luke's previous band kind of like imploded in a bad way. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to play music like this anymore. I'm done with this pop punk stuff. I'm going back to my roots and play rock and roll. Anyways, so Luke invites me to come jam to be like a fill-in guitarist for Calling All Captains on this tour. I was really unsure about doing it because I would have to like quit my job and all this stuff. It was actually my dad that convinced me. He's like, you know what, son? Like, you're young. You probably don't get many opportunities like this in life, so you should take it. And if it all goes wrong, like, you can still live at my house. I'll take care of you. And I was like, oh, thanks, Dad. Yeah, so I quit my job and we went for like a month and a half, I think, across Canada. And during that time it was like, I think it became quite clear that I wasn't just a fill-in anymore.
Yeah,
we got really tight with each other, and by the time we were back, I was just in the band.
And now I would never do this without Connor. Holy fuck!
Yeah,
I couldn't do it without any of these guys, to be honest. And that leads us to Tim. So our singer quit.
Yeah,
And we just went to the UK, and he was like, "Hey guys, like, when we get back from tour, like, I'm gonna be done. You know, like, I don't want to sing for the band no more. And we were like, fuck, what do we do? So we started asking people, auditioning, blah blah blah, asking everybody we could just to see if they wanted to try out vocals, and just nothing really worked. So we were still writing new songs. We were still in the studio. You know, we were still trucking forward. So we had a couple demos, and I did backup vocals for the band. And the thing is, the fellas, everybody was like, yo, just try it. Go sing it.
We were like, Luke, get in there, track some vocals.
Yeah. And so
yeah, you hit our song Disconnected in the studio. I think it was kind of a unanimous decision that we were like, oh shit, I think Luke has to be our new vocalist. So then we were looking for a drum.
Yeah, so then we were like, fuck, okay. Who's a good drummer? Who do we like? And we all went to the same venues across Edmonton, played the same shows, and half of us like opened up for Tim, like in his band. You know, like he played in this band in the city called Greater Than Giants, and like you could literally see Connor with his emo bangs in the front row of one of his music videos. Like we just knew we needed a good drummer. We just wanted somebody to play the drums. You know, we'll figure out a member later. So we had the first BC tour, like Western Canada tour, that we ever were going to embark on with me singing. And we started to think about drummers, and we're like, well, let's just ask him. The worst he can say is no. So, you know, like we asked him, we're like, yo, Tim, like, you want to come fill in? There's some, what is it, parallels here with Connor's story. But yeah, what were you thinking at that time, Tim?
I can't remember who reached out to me first. Was it you, Luke, who sent me Disconnected?
Maybe.
Yeah,
It's either me or you.
it's all a blur. But yeah, one of the guys sent me Disconnected with Luke on vocals, and I remember hearing it for the first time and getting like a little light bulb above my head, because it was so good, and it just like it really struck a chord with me. Like Luke on the vocals, they had a newfound production, like the songwriting quality had just exploded, like since the last time I'd heard from him. So I heard that song and I was like, hell yeah, like I'll do a fill in. I was in that era of life where I was just saying yes to literally every single gig that came along. It just so happens I like the dudes, and I like the music. So I said yes to do the fill in. And same thing as Connor. It's like after a couple tours, I was like, well, guess I'm here now.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, and then I really like the story of us as a band, because like when we go on the road, we all take care of each other. Mostly they all take care of me, but it's been pretty good.
What I think is really cool about the origin story or the development story of this band is like every one of us had multiple bands prior. We've all had like 50 other bandmates, but over the course, like Luke described it like a coffee filter, right?
Yeah.
So it was like over the course of like 10, even 15 years of all of us playing throughout the scene, all of our other bands, you know, dissolved, dropped off, and the group of guys that you see here are just the ones who kept going.
Right.
That's all it was. Like, we are just the only ones crazy enough to keep going through all of the hardships, right?
Yeah.
It's cool how that all developed.
Yeah, it's a common story you hear where bands in the scene and it just winnows down until the guys who are most hardcore, they're committed, they just connect, and that's the ones that make it, right?
Open so.
let's jump ahead and talk about the release of Slowly Getting Better, which you released fall of 21. I know here in the States at that point, everybody kind of said fuck it to COVID and just like life had resumed as normal everywhere. What was Canada like, and kind of what was your experience with releasing that album? Do you feel like you were able to tour and give it a proper album cycle?
No,
No.
Not at all.
no. The border, when we released it, the border was still closed. I think like we couldn't come down to the States.
Yeah, you know what I'll say too is that the last time we tried to tour the record, it was really difficult for us because one, we didn't know anything with social media. We didn't know, like, the whole format was changing. You know, we used to be able to post a show picture and then boom, 500 likes. Everybody's onto it, blah, blah, blah. Now everything's going into short form content. So we're like, okay, you know, something's changing. And we didn't really get a handle on that until near the end of tour, when we kind of started to just think about it more. How can we advertise these shows better, blah, blah, blah. And that whole thing kind of just snowballed into the realization that our social media and our advertising was also hindering us from not being able to tour the record. Because we could have toured the record, but we didn't know how to advertise it so late in the game. You know, we were already moving on to other stuff. We just wanted to tour and get out there, right? So I think COVID and its impacts, because like Canada was still, you know, the recording process of the record too, that got affected heavily by COVID. We weren't even supposed to record it in Canada. I'm glad we did, but it's just, you know, but I've noticed just these last few tours, now that we have a better social media following, Brad's way better at doing ads. We're just getting a better handle on what it means to be like a touring band. Yeah. And that, I can speak for all of us when I can say we've definitely noticed the growth. We just did a small tour across BC, and like even in these small towns, you know, you got all of the people coming out, buying merch, going hard at shows, you know, supporting local music. So the scene is alive and well. So when we got new music to come, they'll all bring a friend.
Nice. Yeah, I remember seeing a flyer at the pie shop in DC, and it was like, I saw you guys were playing, but it was like the next day, and I was like, oh, well, if I can't make it, that sucks. I wish I'd known about this sooner. It was just like, those things are a bummer. And I think it also has to be hard because post-COVID, it seems like for smaller to mid-sized bands, like if you're not playing Live Nation venues, you know, we're reimagining touring venues again like we were, you know, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, for real. Like playing the pie shop. Playing venues that normally wouldn't get down with like punk or hardcore. You know, they're just like, let everybody in. And honestly, we're very thankful for that. Like touring across America is such a crazy experience just from being out of country. Like there's so many different environments, different people, you know, it's like everywhere you go. But you know, the audience is the audience everywhere you go. I can't explain it. It's almost like we're people in the scene and the music scene like this, listen to music that are a little bit alternative. We're almost like the same anywhere you go. You know, we all have that common interest and common ground. So it's pretty cool to see so many different landscapes across America, but still get to experience our people, you know?
Yeah, for sure. You guys worked with New Damage. They co-released the last album, but how'd you end up working with them as a label?
For our first release, Nothing Goes Here, we were completely unrepresented in Canada. That was like an independent release for us up here. But we wanted the LP to kind of have some label support, you know, like kind of lay down some roots in Canada, get to the next level out here as well, not just have America. So we had our manager, like, you know, reach out and be like, hey, we got this record. We're going to record it with Equal Vision, but we want to also release it in Canada. Would you like to be a part of our deal, essentially?
Nice.
And without getting into like contract stuff, they just said, yeah, sounds good. You know, like we'll license it up here in Canada. And then after that LP, we departed ways from Equal Vision. So New Damage was like, all right, so, you know, like, do you want to do like the whole world? And we said, absolutely.
Nice.
You know, like, let's just, let's have a home at New Damage. You know, we have amazing representation over there. We know our guy, Jacob, he's the dude. You go see them every time we go into Toronto. So I just think it's just a really good relationship for us now with New Damage, especially with how much they support us. They're allowing us to be really creative.
Nice.
Like every demo we send, they're always like, yeah, good job, boys. Like, nice. They're not like, they're not like a label that's like, well, I don't know, this is maybe isn't the right sound, blah, blah, blah. You know, they're not that. That's not what's happening there. So
yeah,
it's really cool. Very happy to be with them. That's
cool.
kind of how we got them on board for the whole world.
Now you have this new EP, Emotion Sickness. Because you were releasing music in an EP format, did that lead you guys to experiment a little more? There's a little softer, a little more acoustic side on this EP than the full length?
Not really. I guess it just, we were always going to get more creative. We're always experimenting with sounds, especially some styles that we maybe haven't done before. So we just wanted to do an EP because it's quicker to record, easier to put out. You know, there's a lot that goes into an LP release, but an EP, we can kind of take it a little bit more on the chin. You know, like there's still lots of planning, but it's not like, whoa, it's a date, it's an album. You know what I mean? So I think it's just for the sake of our people. We have a really bad habit of not releasing music for a long time. So we had a bunch of songs, and we wanted to show everybody that we're getting a little more creative.
Mm-hmm.
We still got that original sound, baby. But there's definitely some new edges of the CAC.
Yeah. And even though like bands and a lot of people want LPs, like the statistics show the more songs there are, like people drop off about halfway through. So it's like an EP is the perfect length for everybody's shortened attention span, right?
Yep.
Yeah. You know, and I think everyone will be surprised by this EP from us.
Yeah.
There's the first three, I'd say it's back to form, Captains in classic fashion. But the interlude on the record is very cool.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of interesting flavors and vibes to it. I had my friend who I work with production on with my solo project, so he added a lot of his talent to the record. And then the acoustic song we have on the record, like, I don't know when this is coming out, but you know, Connor sings it.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something exciting. And then I won't say anything about the last one.
Yeah, it's a very cool EP. Talk to me about the title and like the inspiration for the songs.
Oh, you know, we thought of the title just kind of thinking about it one day, just thinking about names and ideas, and someone just mentioned motion sickness, and then I think Connor was just like, emotion sickness. And I was like, damn, dog. It's like, that's a real thing. I don't know if you like, when you ever get so sad that you just feel like you want to throw up, or like so angry that you get a headache.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just like whatever emotions can do to a body, it can seriously affect you. And that's kind of like the way every song kind of talks about that in more ways than none. It's even Wallflower, the one we put out, it's just letting the thoughts of depression and letting people down around you. It's the feeling that you're unfixable, and like all of those emotions that go into that. Sometimes that makes you just sick to your stomach, like unable to eat, unable to get up, do anything. So it's just all of these lyrics on the record, they're going to definitely talk about how emotions can affect your daily life just by dwelling on them.
Yeah. Who came up with the album artwork concept?
Well, we came up with a really rough concept.
Oh, yeah.
Our basic idea was just to incorporate the serotonin symbol as part of the artwork. And we have a designer, Ron Topman, who we really like. He does all of our merch and stuff now. So we sent him our concept in a very rough format, and he kind of played around with a few ideas. And then he sent us that version of the artwork. And honestly, I think from what he sent us, once he had dialed it in, like, it didn't really change very much. We saw the way he had done like the serotonin symbol and made it look like a cellular network. It was really, really cool. So it changed very little from that first or second draft he sent us.
EP's out July 19th. You guys have a big fall tour. Is it still kind of a pain to go between the United States and Canada? I mean, like, I've talked to a few Canadian bands and they've said, like, one, it's expensive as shit to get visas and tour in the States right now. And like, it just sucks. Like, is it still a major pain?
Yeah, they make it. They seem to make it worse every year. Like, the prices have all gone up this year. The process takes longer. I think it's about 3 months now, which makes it really hard because just to apply for it, you have to have contracts for all your shows and stuff. So everything has to be set in place like really far in advance. And then you submit everything, you send them all the money, and you just wait. We're still waiting right now. They can say yes or no, and you don't get a refund. You don't get anything. So the tour is going to happen either way. It's just if they don't approve our visa, we're going to have to apply again and pay the advance rush fee, whatever. It just gets like more and more expensive. It's just all about money. But that won't stop us. We're coming. Coming on down.
Yeah, we're coming.
I'm out of touch and out of time. If I hear one more word, I'll lose my mind.